I'm Nic Harcourt, and Julieta Venegas has a brand new album out. It's called Norteña, and she's with us in studio. We're going to have a little chat in a while, but first up, a couple of songs. First of all, welcome. It's great to see you.
Hi, Nick. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What are the first two songs you're going to play for us?
Well, I'm going to play a song from my latest album. It's called Tiempos Dorados. It was the first single that came out the first single that came out from the album. And then I'm going to play Oleada, which is it's a much older song, but I really enjoy playing it in the accordion. So I'm going to play that one.
Julieta Venegas on the morning show at the SoCal Sound.
Que vuelvan los tiempos dorados, los dulces futuros que tanto soñamos. Que vuelva el misterio y el aburrimiento, el no saber nada, el no saber nada. Que vuelva el amor lastimero, eléctrico intenso, que nunca se olvida, pero es pasajero. Te deja una huella que nunca se irá, nunca se irá. Sentir que no hay nada igual de tanto vibrar. Es un milagro, lo quiero atrapar. Es un espejismo que se esfumará. Más fuerte lo sientes, más pronto se va. Que vuelvan los viajes sin rumbo, las hojas en blanco, las flores del mal. Tú dime a qué mundos irías si todo algún día volviera a empezar. Las voces de niñas cantando en el eco profundo, desierto en el mar. A sentir que no hay nada igual de tanto vibrar. Lo quiero atrapar, es un espejismo que se esfumará. Más fuerte lo sientes, más pronto se va. Más cerca parece, más lejos está. Y tú bien lo sabes, que no volverá. Quisiera detener esta oleada que me lleva. ¿A dónde no lo sé? Solo me muevo con ella. Y nadie ahí me conocerá. Y a nadie ahí reconoceré. Pero no tengo miedo. No. Quisiera detener esta oleada que me lleva. Y todo lo que ya viví lo sigo cargando. Lo llevo muy dentro de mí, nunca lo he olvidado. Lo siento tan cerca de aquí. Lo llevo muy dentro de mí. Va en busca de un lugar en este mundo abierto donde me pueda yo quedar para empezar de nuevo. Y nadie ahí me conocerá, ya nadie ahí reconoceré, pero no tengo miedo. Y todo lo que ya viví lo sigo cargando, lo llevo muy dentro de mí, nunca lo he olvidado. Lo siento tan cerca de aquí, lo llevo muy dentro de mí. Y todo lo que ya viví lo sigo cargando, lo llevo muy dentro de mí, nunca lo he olvidado. Lo siento tan cerca de aquí, lo llevo muy dentro de mí. Y todo lo que ya viví lo sigo cargando, lo llevo muy dentro de mí, nunca lo he olvidado. Lo siento tan cerca de aquí, lo llevo muy dentro de mí.
Julieta Venegas joins us on the morning show today. She's got a brand new album out called Norteña. And, well, we've got another song that we'll get to in a moment before we bounce out of here. But first of all, welcome. It is great to see you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You know, I was listening to a couple of previous interviews that you and I had done through the years on my way in here this morning. And the first one was from, and I'm sorry, it's a long time ago, September 2000 was the first time we met. And it was really informative for me to listen to that interview in the context of where you are today and this new album, as well as a conversation that you and I had about 4 years ago when you were still living in Buenos Aires right after the pandemic. And again, that conversation kind of tied into where you're at today, I think. And if I can maybe reference that first conversation we had back in 2000, you were talking a little bit about growing up in Tijuana, and you were talking about how as a kid and as a teenager, you kind of rejected a lot of the music that your parents were listening to, the music that was going on around you. You were listening to alternative American radio, 91X out of San Diego, and discovering bands like Sugar Cubes and Depeche Mode and Oingo Boingo. But yet here you are all these years later after a massive career, and you're sort of coming back to your roots. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what made you feel perhaps homesick and how you decided to come back to Mexico and make this record.
Yeah, I think I had the idea of doing this record. I've had it for a long time. I would say the first song that I wrote was actually in the pandemic. I eventually recorded a pop album, more pop-oriented album. But one of the songs that I wrote is one that actually is in this album. And when I wrote it, I was like, one day I'm going to make this record. One day I'm going to do this, norteño record or maybe popular music record, because it's not actually like a respectful of all norteño traditional music. It's more like my own interpretation of the sounds that I grew up with and influenced by Los Tigres del Norte, by Juan Gabriel, by artists that we would listen to at home. That, as you have well said, when I was a teenager, I was against. I didn't want anybody to know that I actually liked any of that stuff. I was like, no, I'm more like into more modern sort of. But it's really funny because at home it was pretty natural to have that mix. Nobody was conflicted if we heard Juan Gabriel right after The Cure. It was like a very natural, and that I think is really marked the way that I listen to music and the way that I express music, that it's all, whatever feels natural to me, I'll mix it in, I'll just like try things to see. And I'm not so married with styles, I don't think that my music is a certain style, it's like, or a genre, it's more like about stories, about songwriting, about sounds. I'm very intuitive with my writing. So I just kind of like to have like my personality feel, there. I don't think that I'm genre directed. I'm more like, song and story directed.
It's interesting. When I first moved to LA, it was a couple of years before we first met, and I had a producer at the old place, Ariana, who started introducing me to Mexican music, to Latin alternative music at the time. And I remember the conversation that we had, or I just listened to it a few hours ago, where we were talking about that this was just beginning to break through. Latin alternative music was just beginning to get a hold in the States. And the radio show that I did at the time, we would play something like Depeche Mode next to a Julieta song or a Café Tacuba song. Or a Juana Molina song. And here we are all these years later, and Latin music sure is in the mainstream today. And I know that you collaborated with Bad Bunny and performed with him as well. What did you think when you heard that he had scored the Super Bowl gig?
I think it's incredible the way he's grown into this cultural force. It's more like not just he started as a reggaeton artist, or people considered him only a reggaeton artist, and he's kept on expanding his artistic expression, and also like getting out of any category you want to put him in. I think that to me is really exciting about him. And I was really happy when I saw that he was going to be in the Super Bowl, because I feel like he represents Latino culture right now. The way this generation of Latino people who are, born in the US, but definitely grew up with their Latin roots, like really present, and they speak Spanish with their families, and yet they know how to speak English with other people, and they've studied here. So I think he really, really, I was super happy and proud of being Latina, and just feeling like we were very well represented in his Super Bowl show.
Again, in that conversation we had all those years ago, you mentioned that Latin music was much more than cumbia and merengue. And it certainly has expanded out of that into the American marketplace in particular. In that conversation as well, you talked about being on car trips with your parents, where you would listen to cassettes. And I'm wondering, there's a certain nostalgia, I think, for all of us as we get older and we start to revisit our roots and where we're from and remember, who we were, because we all change, obviously, and evolve through the various lifetimes that we live. But did you think about that stuff when you started working on this record? Did you think about being a kid and being on those car trips and hanging out with your parents, listening to music?
No, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of that in this album. I mean, I actually wrote a memoir also while I was writing the album. So the thing is that I felt like the whole thing is sort of like a memoir project, musically, and also with what I'm sort of trying to find out why it is that I dedicated myself to music. Why music? That's sort of the question that I started the book with, and I feel like it's all like, it's not I don't know, maybe I don't consider myself nostalgic in the sense that I miss certain things. It's more like a reconciliation with what my choices have been, because as a woman, as a Mexican, and as a Latina, and in every sense, what I chose was never what my parents expected from me. I think all Latino, at least a lot of Latino women, I'm sure from my generation, feel like, if you don't do the whole marriage, kids project, you're not doing what everybody expects from you. And I had to, like, a lot of years had to pass for me to reconcile with that and say, no, but it's not that, I chose wrong. It's just that, people weren't used to seeing that. And my life choices have been different because I've just chosen what I want to do and not what I'm supposed to do. And that for me, I think this whole project has been a bit about that, about sort of finding myself with, as you said, like musical influences from my parents, and realizing how my perception of that, the relationship with music that my family has sort of como que me han inculcado, they've made it a part of me, and I feel like now it's like I can recognize how valuable it is, the way that I grew up with, the way that the music that I listen to has marked me and marked the way that I make music, and that I think is really important. And also I think that doing this project like this was a really slow cooked project. I just, took my time with it. And I thought about it for a long time. I wished it. I wrote a bunch of pages about the idea of doing this album. And then finally, when I was doing it and writing the memoir and reading about Tijuana, I realized, wow, this whole thing is just because I want to go back to Mexico. I just miss my family, and I should just probably just move back, So everything's sort of intertwined, like the album, the book, the coming back to Mexico, everything's sort of like, and I really like that. I feel like I had to do something like this to realize that I wanted to come back, It was a long way to do it, but at the same time, it's beautiful for me to be doing it all at the same time.
The last time we spoke was actually 4 years ago. This month, actually, it was in April, 4 years ago, and you were in Buenos Aires, and I think we was just sort of coming out of the pandemic, and you talked to me a little bit at that time about how when the pandemic began, you really had to sort of sit back and figure out what you were going to do next. And I know that we talked about a monologue that you had done live on stage, and that had really made you think differently about the space on a stage, and how you fill that space, what you do with that space, because obviously you're there on your own doing a monologue in a theater. And you just come off a 3-year album and touring cycle, but you also said that at that time, you weren't really sure what you wanted to do with music. And I think if I can, remember this right, you said, I was thinking about maybe I'd open a bookstore or something like that.
I always go to that idea, the bookstore idea. It's always a great plan B for me.
That's the fallback for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely like, what? Because I think my career had become very show oriented. I would just like do shows and shows and shows, and then I'd stop to do another album and then go back and doing shows. And I had to like quit everything to get my love for it back. I had to like undo everything and sort of like I separated my band. I separated with the manager I was working at that point. I sort of like had to, quit everything to think about the next step, So I started working with a different manager, and that was a different kind of planning. We started projecting ideas before we were doing them. We weren't like already on tour and thinking, what are we going to do next? More like, we're going to do this tour and then we're going to stop and then I'm going to do this. So I think I just needed to do a better planning. I had to like plan better and think ahead more. And that was really important for me, I think, because I got the love for it back, and I realized how important it was for me to protect it, to really, if this is my vocation, and I know it is because I've been doing it for so long, at the same time, I still need to protect that it doesn't become this crazy machine where you're just doing shows like nuts, and you have to be able to plan and to imagine before you're doing it. And that for me was very important. And I think the monologue, after the monologue, I did a tour by myself, just me with a bunch of instruments. And that was also important for me because I think that was because of I had done the monologue. I had been by myself on stage, and I realized, it gave me a lot of security and a lot of like I felt very solid after that tour. And I realized that I was a lot freer to do more things, to start with a small band and grow into a bigger band. And now we're going to go out on tour with a pretty big band. I mean, I haven't been, we're going to be 9 on stage. I haven't done that in a long time. So I'm really excited, at the same time, like super nervous, but I think I'm ready for it now. I really want to do it now because I think the album definitely needs like all these sounds happening, in the show.
I was watching some footage online last week. I think you were at the Billboard Latin Women in Music event, and they presented you with the Artist Excellence Award. Well, I say they presented you. It was your pal, Natalia Lafourcade, who presented it to you. And she's on this record as well. Can you talk a little bit about your friendship with Natalia and perhaps some of the other people who you brought in to help on this record?
Natalia is someone who's always, she's always been an inspiration for me. It's really funny, but I keep on telling her that, like, you become a teacher for me. And she's like, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm like, no, seriously. I feel like she has always, like, the way she's expanded her music and sort of grown into this super amazing artist. It's something we all knew when we saw her for the first time. She's always been very precocious and super talented. And she has this sort of like telepathic relationship to music. So we've always whenever we see each other, which is not as often as we'd like to, because I mean, I was living in Argentina, she was living in Veracruz. We always have this connection. Like, we know that music really brings us together a lot, and we just talk about life and talk about, all sorts of things, and also like decisions that we make, artistic decisions in the sense of, how we structure things, because we're both now independent artists. I mean, she's licensed by Sony, but I'm also independent. So there's so many things that we have in common and that I love talking to her about. And when we wrote this song with David Aguilar, who I wrote a lot of the songs in the album with, I wanted to do it with a friend. I mean, I wanted to do it with someone who I did call friend, because le decía amiga, I wanted that to be, not just somebody I didn't know, but somebody who I felt close to. And I felt Natalia was wonderful in what she's doing right now. I felt was synced with, or sintonizada with what I was doing. So I felt like it was a wonderful moment to collaborate again. And I sent it to her and she loved it immediately. And thankfully, I mean, I had a lot of time. I didn't want to hurry this album. It was all super slow. So I think I spoke to her like 8 months before we recorded. It's like, don't even worry about it. Go on tour, do your thing. I'll see you then. And then it came out she was pregnant. And then we finally recorded the song like 2 weeks before she had her baby. It was great, actually. It was super magical. And so that was wonderful. And also there's Meme del Real is also on the album. He also, we sang a song together called Lo que va a pasar. There's Yaritza y su Esencia, who are from Washington, who also play in La Línea with me. There's Bronco, who was the first song that I dreamt of doing for this album. I imagined singing it with Bronco, and they're in the album also. There's David Aguilar, who also I sing a duet with, and Rutzi, who I produced, who was also my co-producer, and she's also in the album. And I wanted to do one song with her, so we did Amigas, which is a friendship breakup song. I think there's not too many of those. I kind of needed to write that song.
So getting ready to get back on the road. You mentioned there's a lot of work coming up for you this year. I know you're going to be in LA at the Wilton October 1st and 2nd. And a couple of little sort of setup things that are going on around about the time that we're recording this that will probably have happened by the time we put it out. But it's sort of back into the cycle, but in a different way, I think. As you mentioned, you're an independent artist now.
Yes.
You have a lot more control over your career. How are you looking forward to going out with this record and with this collection of songs?
Well, we're going to alternate the book presentation with the record. So we're going to do a lot of shows in Mexico and the U.S. this year. We're only going to go to Spain for doing 3 shows, but it's mostly going to be Mexico and the U.S. And then I'm going to go present, because I did the book was actually published with 5 independent publishers in Latin America and 1 in Spain. So I wanted to do it as an independent project. I mean, I really love these publishers, and there's La Pollera in Chile, there's Almadía in Mexico, Laguna in Colombia, Las Afueras in Spain, and Blat y Ríos in Argentina. So I'm going to be doing some of the presentations in different book fairs and Buenos Aires, in Argentina, in Chile, in Spain. So, we're sort of alternating both projects since they're both coming up to, together. And so I'm kind of, this is all new for me, doing it like this. But having this space to actually present the book is actually a new thing, saying, I'm going to quit doing a few of the shows so I can dedicate myself also to presenting the book. So it's actually really interesting for me to do this like this, the whole thing, the project, doing it together and then putting it out together. So we're going to be doing a lot of shows, but we're also alternating with book presentations.
That's a great idea to have a different publisher in each territory as well, because you have their attention, right? By picking a publisher that is, only in Chile or only in Mexico, then you have their full attention rather than putting it out through some big book
Yeah.
publisher who, in different markets, maybe people don't care. You've got everybody's attention in those markets that you're going to be visiting.
Yeah, it's actually I find it to be a very como muy amoroso. The whole project is just so wonderful to be able to do it like this, because people usually think of independent publishers like, oh, they can only do like this. But I think this kind of project of bringing five together, and just feeling like they can be very present, and they're very present in each one in their country, as you say. And also, I've read them all. I respect them a lot. I think with a couple of them, we'd actually spoken about doing a project together like a few years ago. So it's actually cool to actually do a project with them. So it's actually been it's been a wonderful experience, really.
Before you go into the last song you're going to play for us this morning, I've had the very good fortune, I think, with this career that I've had to be in Los Angeles for, it's a long time now, 28 years.
Wow.
And have that early exposure to Latin music and Latin alternative music in particular in my early days here. And through the years, I still stay in touch with folks like yourself and the guys from Cafe Tacuba and Camilo Lara and a whole bunch of folks that I've sort of helped support in the U.S. through the years. One of the things that I've noticed about all of you guys is that whenever I ask if you will come and do something, you always say yes. and it just means so much to me that, we have that kind of, recognition of each other through those years. So I wanted to thank you again for coming in and doing this with us this morning.
No, thank you, Nick, always and yeah, you're just great. That's why we keep coming back.
But one of the other things that I've noticed is, through some of the younger Latin artists that I've met in, the last 5-10 years, you're kind of like their Joni Mitchell. I don't know if you know that. When I talk to Girl Ultra or I can't remember who else recently, but everybody, these younger artists revere you. And for you to see you on stage, getting that award, it's not just from your peers, it's from all the people that you've influenced as well. And maybe this is an awkward question, but, are you aware of that? Are you aware that, your history and what you've done in putting this music in front of, big audiences has helped younger female artists get into performing themselves and writing and performing themselves?
Well, I don't really think about it much. Because I'm always like working, with whatever I'm working in the present time, and I don't really look back too much. But at the same time, when something like this happens, I feel like, oh, it's nice to know that somebody else notices it, because I don't have time, to be thinking about that stuff. But I think it's great, and if I've made it a little bit easier for a new artist, for somebody who's barely starting out, and maybe they'll find a different industry than the one that I found. Well, that's actually really good, because I think we all, women artists, we all need like all the open doors we can get, and it's kind of cool to know that I can also inspire other people to do what they want to do, because I've never based myself on any style and any kind of, and I think that's sort of having different voices. It's actually very enriching for music. So I think it's important for people to just be, for women, and even, not just women artists, but all artists, to be just personal about what they do, and to like what they do, and to see that there's many ways of doing it. There's not just like doing either the record label or a certain style or whatever. It's like whatever you want. I mean, you just have to be sure about what you want and find that, and things will eventually happen. It's that I think it's important to remember it.
Well, I think it's fair to say that you are a defining voice in Latin music, and congratulations on the new album. It's called Norteña, and you've got a couple of gigs in LA at the Wilton, October 1st and 2nd. Anybody on the East Coast, you'll be playing Summer Stage in Central Park, July 29th. That will be fantastic. Thanks again for coming in. What are you going to finish up with us for today?
Well, I'm going to finish with another song from the album. It's called Línea, and it's a song about two people being separated because one of them was deported. I mean, that's sort of what I thought when I wrote the song. It's more an emotional song about being separated from somebody that you haven't seen for a long time because there's this border separating you. And the feat in this one was Yaritza y Su Esencia are the ones who sing with me with the song. So, yeah, I'm going to play it by myself, but, I hope you like it, this version.
Julieta Venegas on More Music in the Morning here on the SoCal Sound. Thanks again.
No, thank you.
separa desde hace tanto tiempo, una línea que me impide poder llegar a ti. Esa línea caprichosa que divide nuestro mundo, te deja a ti de un lado que no es para mí. Te extraño tanto, no puedo sin ti, pero tengo que seguir hasta el día en que vuelva a ti. Seguiré cantando. Esa línea tan amarga nos tiene sin salida, nos hace pensar que esto es el fin. Pero sabes bien, mi vida, ya vimos tantas cosas, nuestro amor sigue fuerte, esto no lo apagará. Te extraño tanto, no puedo sin ti, pero tengo que seguir hasta el día en que vuelva a ti. Seguiré cantando. Tengo un triste recuerdo cuando me separaron de ti, cuando supimos tan de repente que la realidad no sería fácil. Tengo que seguir hasta el día en que vuelva a ti. Seguiré cantando, seguiré cantando, seguiré cantando.
That was special. If you want more performances like this, artists in their purest form, subscribe to the SoCal Sound right here. We're constantly bringing new music into this space. And if you're curious, there's another session waiting for you right over there.